So I think we can start now. And today we'll talk about the manufacturing process. Let me share my screen with you. Yeah, so we'll talk about the manufacturing process today. Okay. I hope my screen is visible to you. And my voice is also clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a second. Yeah, so let us talk about how the integrated circuit is manufactured. So for fabricating a digital IC or any integrated circuit, we need a wafer, right? So we had discussed that how this wafer is produced. Now let us once again discuss the same thing, that for fabrication you need a wafer, and then that wafer can be produced by this Czochralski process, right? So in this Czochralski process, you have molten silicon in a crucible, okay? Hot molten silicon you have in a crucible, okay? And then you pick single crystal silicon from this molten silicon via some handle, and then while pulling this handle up, you also rotate it with a very high speed, right? Now to this handle you also attach a seed crystal at the tip of this handle, right? So maybe let's say this is my handle, the entire this this is, let's say, handle, okay? So I also attach, there is also a seed crystal is attached to the tip of this handle, and half of that seed crystal will be dipped inside the molten crystal, and then this handle will be pulled up. Now this seed crystal will decide the orientation of this silicon, that is Miller indices of this silicon wafer can be decided by the seed crystal's orientation, that is normally we select 100 or 111 as Miller indices of the seed crystal. So the entire wafer will also have a similar orientation, right? So while it is pulled up, it is also rotated. Now the speed of pulling this handle up is somewhere around maybe a few millimeters per minute, right? Maybe 1 millimeter per minute. So that is the speed at which it is pulled up. And as this molten silicon comes up in the air, so it cools down and it takes a form of this kind of cylinder, right? Now the length of this cylinder, so this is somewhere around 1 to 2 meters, right? So this cylinder, which is also called ingot, right? Ingot. So ingot is the silicon cylinder produced via Czochralski process, and the length of this ingot is somewhere around 1 or 2 meters. Now the same ingot can be sliced into hundreds of smaller circular pieces called wafers, right? So this same silicon ingot can be sliced up into smaller circular pieces called wafers. And each wafer, each circular disc or wafer can yield hundreds or thousands of integrated circuits. Now again, this number of integrated circuits depend upon the size of your die, and the size of your die obviously depends upon the complexity of the integrated circuit that you want to fabricate. So this kind of circular disc is produced from the silicon ingot, yeah, this one. So this is sliced up into this kind of circular disc, okay? So this is called a wafer. So as we had also discussed some time back, that circular disc of this kind is called wafer, a silicon wafer, right? And then on this silicon wafer, you will find some rectangular blocks of this kind, and these rectangular blocks are called single dies. And then finally these single dies can be diced up or sliced up or cut it into individual dies, and then they can be packaged in some sort of housing, okay, or casing. Now the wafer diameter, we had discussed that it is somewhere around 12 inches to 16 inches. Though Intel, which produces microprocessors, maybe i7 microprocessors, so the wafer size there for Intel is somewhere around 12 inches. And the thickness of this wafer is in between 0.35 to 1.25 millimeters. Then before fabricating your integrated circuit on these wafers, you need to perform some other operation. So after slicing the wafer from the silicon anode, you need to perform these two steps also, that is etching and polishing, right? So this etching and polishing are basically used to make the surface of the wafer free from scratches and imperfections. Okay? So there may be some imperfections or maybe some scratches on the surface. So the surface is made free from scratches and imperfections by using this etching process and polishing process. Now etching process, again, it can be performed either by some chemical etchant, which is called wet etching, or by in presence of some gaseous ionized gases, so that is called dry etching. So for wet etching, for example, it has been shown here, so the wafer is immersed in a chemical etchant. Now this chemical etchant will remove any imperfections present on the wafer, okay? And then after etching, one has to perform this step, which is called polishing. So the silicon wafer is polished so that the wafer is smooth and there are no imperfections, no scratches, right? So you will see that the silicon wafer is always very shiny kind of wafer. So the surface of the wafer is smooth, scratch free, and free from any imperfections. Then after you obtain your wafer, after you get your wafer, you do some processing steps on wafer, that is etching and polishing. The wafer is ready for IC fabrication. Now in IC fabrication, there are 20 to 30 major steps for IC fabrication. So in fact, today there are more than 50 major steps, and each step requires 5 or more operations. Right? So there are around 50 major steps, and each step requires 5 or more operations. Okay? So hence there are total somewhere around more than 300 operations, okay, have to be done to produce a complete IC, because there are somewhere around 50 major steps and each step has 5 or more operations. So the total number of operations is somewhere around more than 300 operations one has to perform. Okay, more than 300 operations have to be performed to produce a complete integrated circuit. And you will find that today the integrated circuit chip may be up to 30 mm on each edge, right? And it contains not 100 million, but it may be more than that, maybe a trillions of devices are there now. So these devices are transistors, diodes, resistors, etc. Now, some of the basic operations that are supposed to be performed on the wafer are, for example, number one, oxidation process. Then you have etching, ion implantation, then diffusion, and chemical vapor deposition. So all these operations have to be performed or can be performed on wafer, and these are part of this IC fabrication process. So let us understand one by one each of these operations. These are major operations. There are though many operations, but yes, these are few of the major operations. So let us talk about this oxidation, what it is. So oxidation is basically high temperature exposure of silicon to oxygen to form silicon dioxide. So we understand that why silicon is used for fabricating ICs, because of this native oxide, that is silicon dioxide, which can be easily produced over silicon by simply exposing the silicon wafer to oxygen. Okay, so this oxidation is a two-step process. You need to expose your wafer to oxygen in a hot furnace. So this is done in some hot furnace, a furnace where the temperature can be exceeded, and that temperature can be set to somewhere around 1000 degrees centigrade. And at that temperature, the wafer is exposed to steam or water vapors to create a silicon dioxide layer. So this process is called thermal oxidation. So now this process is not utilized, thermal oxidation. Instead, people use now chemical vapor deposition technique, that is CVD process, to deposit silicon dioxide layer over silicon. Then the next process is etching. So the etching means that we want to make our surface, that is wafer surface, free of imperfection and scratches. Okay? So that is, we want to remove undesired material with the use of either chemical liquid or ionized gas etching. Right? So chemical liquid, so it becomes wet etching, and if I am using ionized gases as an etchant, so it becomes dry etching. Okay? Then another important operation in IC manufacturing is diffusion. Right? So diffusion is generally used to create doping. Right? So you want to dope your semiconductor material. So diffusion process can be used, though now diffusion is not used. Now ion implantation is used, because accurate depth of doping can be controlled by using ion implantation process. But yes, diffusion is also an important process. So this enables you to perform doping in the semiconductor material. Right? So doping process to form N-type or P-type material. Right? So this is again a two-step process, diffusion. So in the first step, impurity. Yeah, for example, let us say that I want to produce an N-type semiconductor. So for N-type semiconductor, you have to put in impurities of pentavalent type of impurities. That is, pentavalent materials are those materials in which the number of electrons in the outer shell are 5. Yeah, 5 electrons are there in the outer shell, or 5 valence electrons are there. So those are called pentavalent, and they are used for doping the material. And the doping type would be N-type if I use pentavalent materials. So pentavalent materials, for example, antimony, phosphorus, arsenic. So these can be utilized for creating an N-type semiconductor. Similarly, P-type semiconductor can be produced by a trivalent impurity. So trivalent impurity like boron, indium, okay, gallium. So these can be utilized to. Normally, boron is used for creating P-type semiconductor. So it's a two-step process. So in the first step, what is done is you first of all create a window in the silicon dioxide. So maybe let me draw it here. So maybe I have a wafer like this, and then I have silicon dioxide here. So I create a window in this silicon dioxide layer. Okay, this is my silicon dioxide. So here also, in this region also, silicon dioxide was there, but using some photolithography methods, one can remove the silicon dioxide from here and create a window of this kind. Now you expose this wafer with N-type impurity to create an N-type semiconductor. Okay, so you expose this wafer with N-type impurity, that is maybe antimony, phosphorus, or arsenic, in the gaseous form. So gaseous form of arsenic, phosphorus, or antimony materials can be exposed. This wafer can be exposed to gaseous form of pentavalent impurities, and the temperature of the furnace would be somewhere around 800 degrees centigrade. Right? So at 800 degrees centigrade, you will expose this wafer to gaseous phase of pentavalent impurities. So at 800 degrees centigrade, we are intentionally keeping this temperature low because the diffusivity of the impurities depend upon the temperature. In fact, the diffusivity is directly proportional to, exponentially, it has an exponential dependence on the temperature. So we want to keep the diffusivity low in the first step, so that the impurities, they deposit on the surface of this wafer, right? So this is the first step, and in the second step, you raise this temperature to somewhere around 1200 to 1400 degrees centigrade. Okay. So as I said, the diffusivity is uh, exponentially dependent on the temperature. It is exponentially dependent on the temperature. So when I increase the temperature, the diffusivity will be more. Now these pentavalent impurities, they can diffuse inside this semiconductor, and then a doping region or n-type region can be found in this way, right? So this is diffusion process to create doping. Then the other process, as I said, diffusion is not popular now. The more popular is now ion implantation technique. So using ion implantation technique also, you can create the same doped regions. Okay. So what is ion implantation technique? So in this technique, you have a high energy bombardment of silicon, okay, high energy bombardment of silicon with donor or acceptor ions from certain accelerator. So you have some sort of ion ion source over here, and then you have a some sort of tube kind of structure here. Okay. So the ions are bombarded from this source. Okay, this is my ion source, for example. So ions are bombarded, and then they move through this tube, and then you have some sort of accelerator here. Okay, ion beam accelerator. So you have some sort of accelerator over here, so which will further accelerate the ions. So you have an accelerator over here. So these ions will go towards the accelerator, and then again they will be accelerated, and then this ion beam will be converged by some lens or something, and they will be converged to a wafer. Okay, maybe a wafer is sitting over here. Let's say this is my wafer. So ion beam is bombarded over the wafer, right, using this ion implantation technique. Now the best part of this ion implantation technique is that is the depth of penetration of the impurities can be controlled. That is this depth. Okay, that is this depth from here to here, right? This point to this point. So this is my depth. So this depth of penetration can be controlled. So how it is controlled? It can be controlled by the acceleration and also the time for which the wafer is exposed, right? By varying the time of exposure and the acceleration speed, one can control the depth of penetration or the depth of the junction depth, right? So this depth of doping or penetration can be controlled by either the acceleration or the time period for which the wafer is exposed to these ion beams. Then the other important process is called chemical vapor deposition, right? So as I said that you have oxidation also is a process to deposit silicon dioxide, but we don't use oxidation now, but instead we utilize this CVD process for deposition of silicon dioxide. In fact, CVD process can be utilized for deposition of any material, right? Any material, any thin film layer of any material can be deposited over the wafer by this CVD process, right? So materials such as metal or oxide can be deposited out of a gaseous mixture. Okay. Metal can also be, so apart from this CVD process, this metal can also be deposited by another process which is called sputtering. So there are two processes for depositing thin layer of metal or thin film layer of metal over the wafer. One method is CVD and the other method is sputtering. Okay. Now there is a problem with CVD process because it's a very high temperature process. So this process is conducted at somewhere around maybe 900 degrees centigrade, right? So this process is used, at somewhere around 900 degrees centigrade. And in a multi-layer, maybe let me take one screen. So in a multi-layer interconnect, so maybe I have, let's say, 4 or 5 metal layer process. Let's say 3 metal layer process I have. Okay. So multi-layer process, multi-metal layer process, or let's say 3 metal layer process I have. So each metal layer is separated by an insulator layer, that is a silicon dioxide layer, right? So for depositing this silicon dioxide layer, if I use this CVD, okay, and I understand that this CVD is performed at somewhere around 900 degrees centigrade, right? And these metal layers are normally aluminum, right? Let us say all these metal layers are, let's say this one is aluminum, okay? That is aluminum interconnect line, and then over this you want to deposit a silicon dioxide layer using CVD process. So CVD process is conducted at somewhere around 900 degrees centigrade, but the problem is that melting temperature of this aluminum line, so that is somewhere around 660 degrees centigrade. So that is the melting point or melting temperature of my aluminum wires, right? So aluminum wire has a melting temperature of 660 degrees centigrade. So if I perform CVD process to deposit a silicon dioxide layer over this metal layer, silicon dioxide layer over this metal layer at 900 degrees centigrade. So what will happen is that this aluminum layer, this will melt, and this will spill over the entire integrated circuit, and it will make unwanted connection, okay, or short circuits in the ICs are possible. So to overcome this issue, there is another CVD process, which is a low temperature CVD process, and the name of that CVD process is plasma enhanced CVD process, right? Plasma enhanced CVD process. So it's a low temperature CVD process, and it can be performed in the temperature range of somewhere around 200 to 400 degrees centigrade, right? So in the range of 200 400 degrees centigrade, there is no problem. Metal lines, that is aluminum lines, will not melt. They have a melting point of 660 degrees centigrade, right? So PECVD, that is plasma enhanced CVD, is better than CVD. For low temperature process, we utilize CVD, plasma enhanced CVD, instead of the regular CVD process. Then after these operations have to be performed, obviously, and before that these operations, you need to have a processed wafer with you, right? And also you need to have mask, right? Because these masks you will generate from the layout. So it's in some PC which is running software, some layout design software would be running in this PC, and on that layout design software you will create a layout of your IC, and from that layout of the IC, you will generate this GDS2 netlist, okay? So that will contain the information about all devices, right, and all components in your IC. So that information is in GDS2 netlist, and GDS2 netlist is obtained from the layout, okay, again from the computer itself. Now that GDS2 netlist will be used by the industry to create mask. So now creating a mask is a costly business. The cost of one mask is somewhere around $1.4 billion, right? And there are more than 30 masks required in the current complexity or in the current process technology, right? Current process, right? So it's a costly business, mask. Okay, so masks have to be produced from the layouts. So you have to provide mask and process wafer before you can perform these operations on your wafer, right? So once you have mask, once you have layout, in fact, you have to create mask, and wafer is also produced side by side, and then some chemicals also will be required in this process because etching requires chemical. Okay, so all these three inputs, that is mask, wafers, and chemicals, would be provided, and then you perform all these operations, and then the fabricated ICs can be produced, and you have a process wafer, and then these process wafer, separate chips can be created out. I mean, these chips can be diced out separately, right? So these chips can be produced by I mean, this is just a flow, basic flow of IC fabrication, though it is more complex, but yes, basic flow requires you to generate a layout from PC and then create mask and then put mask and wafer both into this kind of process where you perform all these important major steps and then finally you have a process wafer, right? So that means we need to now create knowledge about how to generate these layouts. So we'll talk about how to create layouts in this course. Now
wafer will take out from mask, or wafer is
different? No, wafer is separate. Wafer is separate, mask is separate. Yeah, both are separate in die stage. Wafer is
different between
mask
both?
is separate. Yeah.
Sir, sorry for interrupting. Sir, but how do we create a mask from a layout?
Yeah, so mask is created by industry, we don't create. So the fabrication unit will create mask for you from the layout. Okay. So mask is basically whatever patterns. Actually, layout is nothing but patterns. So patterns of rectangular shape. Yeah, maybe I have these patterns, rectangular shapes. Okay, this may be the layout of my IC. Right now, and these patterns may contain either transistors or maybe the interconnect lines or maybe diodes or resistors. Anything could be there in these patterns. Now these patterns have to be transferred on the wafer, right? So these patterns have to be transferred on the wafer. So for transferring these patterns, you need a mask. Mask is nothing but it's a, you have a glass sheet, and then depending upon which regions you want to either dope or either diffuse or either create silicon dioxide, right? So those regions where you want to produce maybe silicon dioxide, let us say we want to produce for a transistor, as I said, you need many masks, more than 30 masks to produce the full digital IC. So obviously for producing a transistor also you need more than one mask. So let us say we want to develop a silicon dioxide layer on these two regions, that is regions 1 and 2 of your device. Yeah? So this is my device, let us say, and I have these two regions, that is region 1 and 2, that is source and drain regions. Okay, and this is my gate region. So on the gate region I want to pattern silicon dioxide, okay, on the gate region. So for silicon dioxide patterning I would need a mask which is nothing but a glass plate. Okay, it's a glass plate, and this glass plate has patterns of whatever pattern I have in my layout. So for that I'll have to put this chromium lines on the mask. Okay, so we'll understand how this mask is used to create patterns, and then how to deposit this either silicon dioxide layer or maybe for etching purpose or maybe for diffusion purpose. So for all these purposes, that is oxidation, etching, diffusion, and ion implantation even. Yeah, all these four processes, oxidation, diffusion, etching, ion implantation, they all require masks, and these masks are generated from the layouts because layouts contain information about your circuit, and that information is in terms of just these rectangular blocks. Okay. So you will know in today itself, I think I will tell you how to create mask and how to create ICs from the mask, right? So today itself you will know after maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
So basically it will transfer the pattern into the...
Yeah, masks are patterns. So not patterns actually. Patterns are transferred on this wafer, and for transferring these patterns you need masks. And masks are just glass sheets, and on those glass sheets you have chromium wire pattern on those glass sheet, and how these patterns are transferred maybe after 4 or 5 slides you will see.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So so in a PC running a certain software, you will draw the schematic that shows the layout of the geometric patterns that implement the transistors and interconnection. So layout will contain geometric patterns that will implement your transistors and interconnection, and from the layout you generate mask of this kind. Okay. Then how does the layout looks like? So maybe the layout of an IC may look like this. Okay, as I said that the layout will contain geometric patterns of this kind, right? So these are geometric patterns, for example, And the color of these geometric patterns, they have some meaning. For example, if it is red color, so normally red color is for polysilicon gate. Okay, then similarly metal line, metal one, so this is normally blue color. Okay, so all these colors also have some meaning. So similarly green color, so this is for diffusion region, that is for source and drain diffusion contacts, diffusion regions. You utilize this green region, which is also called active, right? So this is, I think, a P-type transistor, okay, which is, for which the layout is created. This is a layout of P-type transistor or PMOS. Okay, so for making the layout of PMOS, this is the background of my layout editor where I will draw the layout, right? So the background is assumed to be P-type. Okay, first thing is that the background, that is this white background where these dots you are seeing, so this is assumed to be P-type. Okay, now to create, and as I said that this is my layout of my PMOS, this is actually PMOS. So for creating the layout of PMOS in a CMOS process, you will require to have a N-well, right? So maybe let me take another screen. So CMOS is a process which allows you to fabricate both PMOS and NMOS in the same substrate. So let's say my substrate is P-type. Okay. Generally, substrate is normally P-type, wafer is normally P-type, and during the production of that silicon I0, we generally put trivalent impurities in that crucible also to create a P-type wafer. So generally my P-type substrate, in the P-type substrate, I'll create two transistors. One will be NMOS and one will be PMOS. So let us create NMOS here. So NMOS can directly be created by doping these two regions, that is creating these two regions, drain and source regions. Okay. So PMOS can be created, NMOS can be created, but for creating a PMOS, you need a P-type, PMOS, you need a N-type substrate. Okay. So for N-type substrate, we use this N-well. So I'll talk about this N-well, what is this N-well and P-well process. So you need an N-well, that is a region which is doped by N-type impurities, okay, in this P-type semiconductor. And then this in this N-well, you can now have P-type source and drain regions. Okay. So that means in a P-type substrate or in the same substrate, you can fabricate or you can produce both PMOS and NMOS. This one is PMOS and this is in NMOS. So for creating PMOS, you need an N-well process. Okay. So similarly, in this layout, you will see that this layout is for a PMOS. So for creating a PMOS, I need an N-well, because background is P-type. So I need an N-well here. And then after drawing the N-well, I need to have a P-type region inside the N-well, right? So which is defined by this P-select. So if I draw this rectangular block, so this means that I have created a P-type region or P-type substrate in a N-well. Okay. So this is N-well, so P-type region, and in this P-type region, I'll create my drain and source. So for that, I use this green region, green rectangular box. This is called active material, active. So this active, once you deposit this active, so this region becomes P plus, and this also becomes P plus. Now over this active region, you have to cross this poly line, right? That is the polysilicon gate, which is red color. So as soon as you cross the poly line over this green region, the transistor is formed. That is drain and source diffusion regions are defined. Okay. So now you can provide these contacts to the drain and source diffusion regions, because these drain and source would be contacted to some other devices or maybe power supply or ground. So this contact is provided by this black color square box. So this is called an active contact. So for this active contact, you'll have to dug a region here in this active. This place you'll have to create a hole here. I mean, you don't have to create a hole here in the software, but yes, when it is fabricated, the physical process, the manufacturing process requires, to create a hole here, and in this hole you fill metal, and then that metal, you have to provide a contact between the metal and this active, right? So that is provided by this active contact. So similarly, for this another source region, maybe either this could be drain or this could be drain. So let's say this is source, and let's say this is drain. So same thing you have to do here. So my PMOS transistor is now defined. Now what is this here? So in our this thing for PMOS, so you have to connect the body of the PMOS to the most positive supply, right? So similarly, NMOS, you have to connect the body of the NMOS to the most negative supply, so that the parasitic diodes which are created between drain and body region, those are always reverse biased. Okay? So for that connection, you need to provide another contact, which is called using the same process. Again, you define an end select region over here, okay? And then you select active over here, metal, and then active contact, and this can be connected to in case of PMOS, it can be connected to the most positive supply. That is, bulk is connected to the most positive supply. This is basically bulk connection of this MOSFET. Okay, so this is how PMOS can be drawn, and similarly NMOS can be drawn. How it is drawn, I will give a demo of this layout software, and I will show you how to draw this this MOSFET. So these patterns are converted to a set of masks. So these patterns, these are the patterns, that is layout, which contains a set of patterns. So these patterns are converted to a set of masks. One mask for each major step in the fabrication process. Okay? And there are more than 30 major steps. Okay? So one mask for each major step in the fabrication process. What are masks? Masks are glass plates with patterns, which specify the information that will be printed to the IC in a given step, right? So we'll understand what is mask. Now coming on to this photolithography, which is the most important step in the IC manufacturing process. So obviously, this photolithography is most important. So it is done by using some UV light source. So by using this UV light source, you can perform this photolithography. So what it is? Process of transferring geometric shapes on a mask to the surface of a silicon wafer, right? So mask, you have geometric shapes on the mask. Based on your layout, you create geometric shapes on the mask, and then those geometric shapes which are present on the mask have to be transferred to the surface of a silicon wafer. So that transferring of the geometric shapes from the mask to the wafer is done by using photolithography process, right? So once again, I'll repeat, photolithography process is a process by which you transfer the geometric shapes which are present on the mask to the surface of a silicon wafer. So how it is done? So let us talk about the MOSFET photolithography. So now let us say I have a substrate already present, the process substrate, silicon dioxide is also grown, let us say, and also let us say that polysilicon layer is also deposited. Okay, the polysilicon layer is also deposited, silicon dioxide layer is also grown on the substrate. Now let us try to open a window here. Okay, let's try to open a window over here, so that either N plus or P plus region can be created. Let's say I want to create an N plus region. So in this, at the center of this cube, okay. So I need to create a window here. That is, I need to create a window here in this polysilicon and silicon dioxide layer, right? So first step is you grow silicon dioxide, then you deposit polysilicon layer. Now to create a N plus kind of doping region here, we need to create a window in this silicon dioxide also and in this polysilicon also, right? So how to create that window so that N plus, that is diffusion, can be done through that window into the substrate, right? So for that, you first of all coat the surface of the wafer, that is polysilicon layer is beneath this. So you coat it by a material which is called photoresist. Right? So photoresist is a polymer material, and the polymer material, that is photoresist, is coated over the polysilicon layer. Okay. Now this photoresist, this is sensitive to ultraviolet light, right? So this photoresist which is deposited over here, so this is sensitive to ultraviolet light. So that means that if you shine or if you expose this to ultraviolet light, so it can either become soluble or it can become very hard, right? So depending upon whether it becomes soluble or hard, there are two types of now photoresist then. One is negative photoresist and one is positive photoresist, right? So positive photoresist, this becomes soluble when exposed with UV light, and negative photoresist becomes polymerized, that is hard and more difficult to dissolve when exposed to UV light, right? So two types of photoresist, positive or negative, right? So because in the previous picture you want to create a window here, okay? So for that creation of window, let's say I use a photoresist, and when I expose this photoresist with UV light, so this photoresist can either become soluble, okay, that is it can be washed away, or it can become hard. Okay, now how it is used, so that is explained here, right? Now I have a mask, right? Since I wanted to create an N-type implant here, okay, so I need a mask. So mask, that is a glass plate. Yeah, this is a glass plate on which this chromium line is chromium is patterned, right? So mask will be typically a chromium pattern on a glass plate. Yeah? So you have a glass plate, and on that glass plate you have a chromium pattern. So this is my chromium pattern, the dark one here. This is my chromium pattern on the mask, which is actually a glass plate. Okay. So what is the job of this chromium pattern? So when you shine this UV light, yeah, when you expose this wafer to the UV light, so these are the transparent regions. Let's say this is region number 1 and this is region number 2. So region number 1 and 2 are transparent, and region number 3, let us say here, this one, so this is opaque. Yeah? That is UV light cannot go through this region number 3, but UV light can go through region numbers 1 and 2 because these two are transparent. When UV light can go through this, so it can hit here, this region number 1 and 2, okay, again. So region number 1 and 2 can either become soluble or they can become hard, okay, depending upon whether I am using a positive photoresist or a negative photoresist. Depending upon my application, I will use either a positive photoresist or a negative photoresist. Okay. So ultraviolet light is then shown through the mask onto the photoresist. So let's say it's a positive photoresist. Okay. So if it is a positive photoresist, so that means these two surfaces, that is 1 and 2, let me go back here, what was positive photoresist, they become soluble. Okay. Positive photoresist, so this becomes soluble when exposed to UV light. So 1 and 2 regions, that is they will become soluble when exposed to UV light, right? So it is a positive photoresist. So in the next picture you will see that the photoresist is gone from region number 1 and 2, okay, because it was a positive photoresist. By UV light exposure that became soluble, that is region 1 and 2 became soluble, and they are now washed away. So I have a patterning of photoresist on my polysilicon layer, right? So photoresist is washed by the developer using again some chemical process. Photoresist can be washed, then the resist exposed with UV light will be dissolved, right? So UV light, that is this resist, will be dissolved by some process. Now the other step is to etch away the polysilicon. So this polysilicon which was present here in region 1 and 2, so this is also now etched away. Okay. Again, so this was unwanted polysilicon layer. We don't want polysilicon layer here, because if I want to pattern a gate over here under this, so I don't need a polysilicon. So I just washed away this polysilicon from this region. So unwanted things can be etched away. So in this case, let's say polysilicon layer, and in the region number 1 and 2, this was unwanted, so it has been etched away. So again, etching is a process where unwanted areas are removed by either dissolving them in a wet chemical solution, that is wet etching, or by reacting them with gases in a plasma to form volatile products, or dry etching. Okay. Now this etching is not an environment friendly process. So harmful chemicals are used for etching process, so it's not an environment friendly process. Yeah? Very harmful and very toxic chemicals are used for this process. Now, after etching out the extra polysilicon, one can also remove the photoresist, right? Because we wanted to, let us say, pattern this polysilicon layer. That is, we wanted to define a gate region. Okay, so for gate region, you only need silicon dioxide here in this region and a gate over this. Okay, so remove the extra photoresist which was present on this, polysilicon layer. And then the polysilicon patterning is done. So now you can say that the gate can be here. This can be utilized as a gate now. So polysilicon patterning can be done in that way. Similarly, anything can be done. The regions of doping can be created here, and a MOSFET can also be created, right? Now the next step tells us how to implant source and drain regions of the MOSFET. Okay. So for implanting source and drain regions, let us say again we want to implant a source, maybe N plus region here in this substrate. Okay, the previous example was for patterning the polysilicon layer, that is for the application of gate in my MOSFET. But now let us say that we want to pattern our this wafer so that source and drain regions can be implanted with the impurities, right? So that is, we want to create this kind of region here in the substrate now. So again, for doing this, we deposit photoresist on silicon dioxide layer. Right? Then again, we create a mask, and this time the chromium, patterning is done in region number 1 and 2. Okay? And this is transparent region now, region number 3. Okay? So that means region number 1 and 2 are unexposed to UV light. 3 is exposed. Now 3 became soluble, so 3 is removed. Okay. 3 became soluble, so photoresist is removed. Then by etching, one can remove the extra silicon dioxide which was appearing here, because I want to create a region of doping here. So for creating a region of doping, I need to create a window of this kind, right? So window of this kind has to be created in the silicon for creating doping. Now through this window, by ion implantation, that is exposing this part, that is this window, that is this portion of the substrate, by high speed or high accelerated ion beam bombardment can be done here, okay, to diffuse, to create diffusion regions, right? Right, yeah. So now this can be created. Now similarly, one can also think about creating separate drain and source regions. And for this, again, you need to pattern your silicon dioxide. That is, you need to create windows of this kind, and then through this window, you can expose this portion, that is this window, to ion beam. Okay. And then once you expose this to ion beam, or ion beam implantation is done through these windows, okay, you will have your N plus source and drain regions. Okay. Now this window is patterned by using mask. Right? So you have to create a mask again of such kind where your chromium lines are present here in this region. So that is, these two become soluble now. Yeah, so ion implantation can be done here in this substrate, right? So ion implantation is being shown here. So ion implantation has been done. So through silicon dioxide, ions cannot penetrate, but yes, in this substrate where you don't have any dielectric layer, ions can penetrate here. Okay. So ions have now penetrated, and now you have a doped region, maybe it's an N plus or P plus region, has been created by using either diffusion or using ion implantation. So the same step can be repeated, that is, metal layers can also be deposited using the same technique, that is using the photolithography process. By creating mask, you can deposit metal layers. So one can think about creating this kind of MOSFET where you have two N-type regions, this is NMOS, and then aluminum, source and drain contacts have to be, connected by some aluminum wire. So these aluminum wire patterning can also be done by using the same set of mask and using the same process, that is photolithography process. Okay. So this is, I think, the cross section of transistor. So you have these two diffuse regions. You can see poly is here, okay, and channel is here. Now for fabrication of CMOS, right? Since CMOS has both PMOS and NMOS, so this and assuming that we have a substrate which is of P-type, so in a P-type substrate, PMOS is created by using a N-well, right? So earlier, long time back, we had two well process, that is N-well process and P-well process, but now this P-well process is not used, it is obsolete. We don't require this, so only N-well process is utilized now. So earlier, when both well process were there, then some sort of insulation has to be provided between these N-wells. Otherwise, these N-wells would have become connected and become shorted. So that insulation was provided by using this isolation technique, which is called shallow trench isolation or STI. So in shallow trench isolation, what you do is, again, you dug a hole in between this region. This region you dug a hole and then fill this hole with some dielectric or insulator, right? So that way you can provide insulation between this P well and N well. So similarly, the edges of N well and the edges of P well to the substrate. So insulation can be provided there also by, again, digging a hole and then filling that hole with some insulator layer. So this process is called shallow trench isolation process. Okay? And it is a part of manufacturing process. But now, since the P well process, as I said, is obsolete, it is not used, only N well process is used. Okay. And this is the top view of the same MOSFET. This is cross-sectional view. And this is the top view of the two well process, that is P well and N well, both. Now, in this process, one can again define the gate region. Okay. So gate region can be defined, and then thermal oxide or oxide can be grown in the transistor area by exposure through oxygen in a furnace. Right? So oxidation process, that is thermal oxidation process, is required. Exposure of wafer in oxygen environment in a furnace at somewhere around 1000 degrees centigrade. So gate oxide can be formed either by this method or by CVD process. Now CVD process is more popular. Then after depositing the silicon dioxide, this is silicon dioxide. So you deposit polysilicon gate. Again, this polysilicon gate is patterned by using the same photolithographic process. Right? So define the poly gate. Okay. And undesired poly and oxide are removed by chemical etching or plasma. Okay. So that is undesired. When you deposit polysilicon, you deposit the polysilicon over the entire wafer, right? So all these parts are covered by polysilicon, but you don't want polysilicon in these parts, so you can etch them away by the etching process, maybe wet or dry etching process, so that you have only polysilicon patterning over in this region, these two regions, because these are my PMOS and NMOSs. Okay. Then after patterning the gate, the source and drain diffusion regions can be created by using ion implantation technique. I have a gate already patterned. So let me go back to the previous picture. I have a gate already patterned over here. And now the source and drain regions can be created by ion implantation. So both for PMOS and NMOS. Yeah? For PMOS also, for NMOS also. This is PMOS, this is NMOS. Maybe let me say that this is P implant, so this is PMOS. Okay, P implant, so this becomes PMOS, and this is N implant, so this becomes NMOS. So source and drain diffusion regions can be defined. Now the next process is to deposit these silicides and polysides. So silicides are deposited on source and drain diffusion regions, right? So these two regions, that is source and drain diffusion regions. So here you deposit silicides, and on the gate region you deposit this polysides. So what are silicides and polysides? Actually, both silicides and polysides are same material. So silicides are basically more electronegative type of silicon, and it has transition metal. So transition metal based silicon, and that silicide, actually it is called silicide. So that silicide is deposited over the drain and source diffusion regions, or drain and source contacts, because the resistivity of the drain and source contact is very high, that is conductivity is very low. So to raise up the conductivity of the source and drain region, you coat the source and drain contacts with silicide, right? So when you deposit silicide or coat the silicide on source and drain region, so that silicide is called salicide. And when you deposit the same silicide over the gate, so that is called actually polycide. So process actually defines my this term polycide. In fact, there is no material in this world which is named as polycide, right? So silicide, the same silicide is deposited in both these places, that is over the gate also and over the drain and source diffusion contact also to reduce the resistivity of the gate contact and the drain and source diffusion region contacts, okay, or to increase the conductivity of the gate contact or the source and drain contact. Otherwise, the resistance of the gate and source would be very high, and maybe when you apply a bias on these two regions, that is drain and gate, you will not see the effect of that bias if you do not raise the conductivity of this polysilicon gate and the source and drain diffusion contacts. Now,
टाइम हो गया सर, टाइम हो
yeah,
गया.
so time is over, I understand. So maybe I think I'll stop here. The manufacturing process is completed, I think. So we'll talk about we'll talk about how to draw the layout, and maybe some portion of this manufacturing process is still left. So I'll try to cover it in the next lecture, maybe tomorrow, right? So if you have any questions, then maybe you can ask. Otherwise, the class is ended.
Excuse me, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
So what is the difference between a photoresist and a mask?
Yeah, so photoresist is a polymer. Okay. So that polymer is deposited on the wafer, and that polymer can become either hard or soft depending upon the type of it is. So photoresist is a polymer, and mask is it is actually created on a glass sheet. Okay, you have chromium lines or chromium patterns on glass sheet, so that is called a mask. Okay. So you make the photoresist, the regions of photoresist, either soluble or hard using this mask. So you just keep your mask over the photoresist layer, and the regions of that mask through which the UV light can pass, those regions on the photoresist can become either soluble or hard depending upon the type of photoresist used, that is a positive photoresist or a negative photoresist. So this is the difference between photoresist and mask.
Okay, sir.
Sir, why we are manufacturing PMOS and NMOS in a single substrate using NVEL?
Yeah, because if you produce them separately, so it's a costly process also. Process may also be costly, and then there may be CMOS process actually defines that you produce both PMOS and NMOS on the same substrate, so that the integration density can also be high, right? So if you can produce it in the same substrate, integration density, that is the area that is being taken by CMOS, both NMOS and PMOS fabricated on the IC, so that area of the wafer can be minimized. So that is the main reason why we fabricate both PMOS and NMOS on the same substrate, to save the wafer area, because wafer is costly. So integration density can be high.
So NVEL is related to CMOS technology only, or previous technology also this process went or not?
Yeah, there were two previous processes also utilized this technology. In fact, there were dual well technologies earlier, so where P well and N well both were there. Okay, so in the same substrate, you used to create first P well and then N well. Of course, the size of the MOSFET was, the region that was covered on the wafer was larger. Okay, where you had both P well and N well. Now the P well is now obsolete process. Okay, so we only utilize now N well for PMOS transistors, and we assume that wafer is P-type substrate, so N plus region can directly be created. Okay, the process has also become very advanced, so these things are possible now. So earlier these things were not possible because the manufacturing process was not that much developed. So now it is much developed, so these things can be done.
Sir,
Yeah, please.
Is this process called twin tub process? Twin tub process.
Yeah, twin tub process, that is you have both N well and P well. So that is called twin tub process.
Sally, can you please little bit explain about salicide only to reduce the contact between gate and drain?
Yeah, silicides are materials which, if deposited on the contact, the conductivity of the contact can be increased or the resistivity of the contact can be reduced. So if you want to increase the conductivity of any contact, you will simply deposit this silicide layer, which is actually, actually it is a silicon layer only, but more electronegative layer of silicon with transition metal atoms also there. So silicide can increase the conductivity of your contacts. Otherwise, if the conductivity is not high of the contacts, I mean the contacts are not ohmic, then more bias will be required to create the same effect. Yeah. Anything else?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
sir, regarding the assignment you gave the previous day, sir, I couldn't figure out how to import the level 2 model. Means, do we have to take it from the BSIM library, or can we find it in the inbuilt NMOS and PMOS library?
LT Spice you are using, so it may have the library model files might be there for level 2. So you can select them in LT Spice. If they are not
How
there,
to import that? I couldn't import it.
yeah, so
Level 2.
you'll have to spend some time on LT Spice. There are hundreds of tutorials present on the web on LT Spice, and there are many softwares, not just LT Spice. So the simplest way will be to export the Spice netlist file, and in that Spice netlist file, when you are exporting the model, when you write dot model NMOS, so there you write level 2 and you also write the level 2 parameters. So I have already shared the model files with you, level 1 to 50 model parameters I have shared with you. So some of those model parameters you can put in the Spice netlist file itself when you are importing the model. Dot model libraries when you are exporting. When you're writing that command dot model NMOS, then you write level 2 and then those process parameters can directly be written. So that is what I was explaining yesterday in my that demonstration, and that is why I said that you should know. Yeah.
Actually, we don't have that Spice in our embedded lab. So in embedded systems, we don't have a Spice in our lab. That's
That
the
is
problem.
okay, no issues. So you can learn. So it's not very difficult. Maybe you might also have worked on this Spice simulator in your BTech. So if you have not even worked, so that is also not a big issue. I think I had explained how to write the Spice code. So you can follow the same thing, that is divide your entire circuit into number of nodes, and then you can bring in the MOSFETs by saying that capital M stands for MOSFET, and then assigning the drain, gate, source, and bulk terminals to the MOSFET. So connect those. I mean, just 2 MOSFETs are there, so it's not a big task. So you can
Yes.
write a Spice code. I mean, I think it's a 6 or 7 line code. Just 6 or 7 line code it will be for a CMOS inverter. So it's not a very difficult task. Maybe if you spend 1 hour, you will learn how to write Spice code of a CMOS inverter, and you will successfully simulate also a CMOS inverter. So just spend some time on it.
So I simulated for level 1, sir, the normal one, but I couldn't find how to simulate it for level 2.
And that is okay. So you may simply write level 2 process parameters in the Spice netlist.
Okay.
So in LT Spice, there is an option to export the Spice netlist and then perform simulations on that Spice netlist. So you export the Spice netlist, and in the Spice netlist, you make changes. That is, instead of level 1, you write level 2, and instead of level 1 parameters, you just provide level 2 parameters. I think this will work now.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay,
No, sir.
so I'll now just end then the class. So we'll meet tomorrow.